The Truelux Group had been commissioned to create a feature light fixture for the Galleria Mall, Maryah Island in Abu Dhabi. Tom and Nick from the Truelux Group needed a little over 1,200 origami cranes for the light fixture, and they wanted the cranes to be folded from clear colored material. Their client wanted 8 different colors, and they wanted the colors arranged randomly on the fixture. Could I fold the cranes for them? I had a whole summer to do it, and summer tends to be a slower sales season anyways, so I thought, why not? When we found out that shipping all 1,200 cranes would cost more than actually folding them, I offered to take the closed cranes in my luggage, and then I could just open them once I got there. Tom, Nick, and their clients all loved the idea, and we were in business.
So how excited am I about this Dubai project? I'd say super excited.
When Tom and Nick got the sample cranes I sent them, they actually chose a larger size bird than what was in the original plan. That meant they only needed me to fold 980 cranes for the project itself. Now the first step was to find the right material. I had to order enough of it for the entire project. And after a lot of research and doing some test folding, I decided to go with lighting gels, and I placed a large order from the Lee factory in California. I ended up choosing red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, as well as peacock and pink. That gave me 8 colors. Now the sheets were rather large, so this gave me the perfect excuse to finally buy a 24-inch paper cutter that I had been wanting for years. First, I had to cut the sheets in half. This could be done with 2 or 3 sheets at a time, and the cut didn't have to be perfectly straight for this step. Next, I took a single rectangular sheet and cut it into 2 precise 10.5 inch by 10.5 inch squares. I stacked those squares in a clear iris case. The whole time, I kept the layer of tissue paper behind each gel layer just to keep them from getting scratched or scuffed. This time-lapse video of me folding a crane is the one that got me dubbed the Bird Lady by everyone in the UAE. I sent it to Tom and Nick so they could show their clients what I was up to, and they shared it with their clients, and eventually other people working at the mall got to see it too. When I got there, they all greeted me saying, "So you're the Bird Lady!" I thought that was pretty funny. I calculated how many cranes I needed to fold every week, and I made a calendar in order to keep track of how many cranes I actually folded each day. I found that folding more than 20 to 25 cranes a day left my hands sore, so I decided to fold 25 a day and just take 1 day off a week to give my hands a break. This would get all the cranes done in time and give me a week to string them up and pack them. I filled an iris case with 25 cranes every day, and when I had 5 cases filled with one color, I'd transfer that color group into a cardboard box. My pile of cardboard boxes grew into 2, and soon I had 8 boxes filled with cranes. Before stringing up the cranes, I had to make a plan for how the cranes would be arranged on the fixture. They had to be in random color order, so I printed out 4 copies of the rendering, labeled each one based on the location of each layer, and used my favorite Jelly Roll pens to color each one in. I used the pen caps to help me arrange each set of 8 before I colored them in on the papers. Once all the cranes were colored in on the rendering papers, I was able to get started on the process of actually tying the cranes together in groups of 4. For this, I had all 8 boxes on the table, and I'd gather 1 bird of each color, arrange them in the order they had to be in for their position, and then thread them in sets of 2 at a time. I made a little paper tag for each string of birds so that we could keep track of where that specific line went in the actual fixture. Once 4 birds were strung together and their little tag was tied to the line, I'd pack that string in the suitcase. I used tissue paper between each layer of cranes to keep them in place and also to protect them from each other and from getting tangled. I also used smaller pieces from the squares I had cut to help build up the sides of the layers so they would be as level as possible. In the end, each half of the suitcase had about 85 layers of birds and 87 layers of tissue paper. So 172 layers plus some cardboard to protect everything and to help squish down all the layers on each side. I did buy 2 suitcases for the birds, but as I stacked the layers in the first suitcase, I realized that they'd be safer if they were packed more tightly in a single case. This would keep the birds from shifting around and getting damaged in the suitcase during the trip. So I returned the second hard case and just kept this maroon one. Because everything was so compressed inside the case, I was a little concerned that the zipper might just bust open when the case got tossed around at the airport, so I bought a strap to go around the case to take off some of the strain from the zipper. At the airport, I asked for a fragile tag for the suitcase as well. During the trip, I didn't want just some random person opening up the suitcase at the airport, so I got a TSA approved lock for it. And if TSA did happen to open the case for any reason, I included a note inside explaining what was in the case, saying that it was packed very tightly, and asking them to please handle it carefully. I also added a picture of the rendering to show the purpose of the birds. Once all the cranes were packed up and the cardboard boxes were collapsed and put away, the basement looked really empty and sad. The cranes were ready to go by Friday afternoon, even though the flight wasn't until late Saturday night. The suitcase only weighed 15.5 kilograms, which is only 34.2 pounds, so it wasn't very heavy. And as the case rolled off on the conveyor belt, I felt panic for a split second that I might not see it again, but I did have faith that it would arrive safely in Dubai. In the end, nobody opened the case on the trip, and the birds arrived in perfect condition.